This is gonna be a good one. You don't want to miss this one, okay? This man to my left, if you're looking at that video, he's on your right probably, has done over 1,500 owner finance transactions. And he's been humble enough to accept us here in his studio to do a little interview on the legend. I'll call you a legend.
Come on now, come on.
You just
legend.
make him look old.
Well, he's a young legend, man. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. His name is Mitch Stevens. Thank you so much.
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for having us in your beautiful studio, Mitch.
Yeah, if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, you notice that we're doing another remote interview, and Mitch, welcomed us into his studio. So we are, doing this from New Braunfels, right?
Well, I'm actually in Canyon Lake, but I have a New Braunfels zip code. But I'm in Canyon Lake, Texas, just north of San Antonio, about 27 miles.
Beautiful property, beautiful setting, the views. We'll probably, do some outdoor shots and put it in the intro so you guys can
We are
have an idea.
studio hacking today. So, if you don't have a studio to do your podcast, it's your fault. Okay? We found one pretty fast in Canyon Lakes, and he actually let us even borrow the cameras and everything else. So, man, let's get down to the good and the nitty-gritty. Mitch, who is Mitch? Where do you come from? Social security number, bank account, all of that stuff.
These guys don't mess around, do they? They're like going right for the money.
You got to go straight for the kill, man.
I'm a regular guy who puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else. I have the same story that pretty much everybody else has. It's a very familiar story. I started out with nothing. I figured out a few things in real estate. I figured out that I didn't have to have money to get involved. I did, however, have to spend some time and some expertise, in getting some expertise, because when you don't have money, you're a professional deal finder / contract writer. It doesn't take much money to do that, but once you find that deal and you have used some knowledge that you've got to write a strong or impressive contract, now that contract's worth a lot of money.
Right.
For instance, to break it down, you got a $150,000 house and you got it under contract to buy it in the next 30 days for $75,000. That contract is a set of rights that's your personal property, and I can sell that personal property probably for about 20 grand under those numbers. You know what I mean? And so I went around with the idea that if I wrote and made good enough deals, that the deals would find the money, which was correct.
That's what we believe.
Yeah, that still works. We do that every day, but
we're gonna do that today, actually.
What's your background? You went to college?
You got like a PhD or something crazy like that?
I graduated from La Calle U.
Okay, that's a good university. I actually attended it down in South America.
It's the most expensive college on the planet.
Yeah.
So far, it's charged me about $850,000, and I'm still no place.
Jesus, I thought I had it rough,
and
man.
I'm still learning. Well, it's 22 years. Just hang around long enough. You'll get charged some more.
I'll get there, right?
You'll get charged some more. Well, hopefully not, but probably.
Hopefully not.
La Calle means the street in Spanish. For those of y'all that are not bilingual, I'm actually going to have a ring made that says La Calle U, and I'm going to wear it like
that's a great name to do like a mastermind meetup or something like that. You cannot have a bachelor's degree. You had to go to La Calle University, okay?
Yes, online training. So I failed at, people say, how'd you get into real estate? So I like to say, well, I failed at everything else. It was like the last thing left to try. I was an entrepreneur from the day I was born. I was always trying different things. One of the things I didn't like about a lot of the businesses that I tried was that people wouldn't pay me, and I had no real recourse against them that made any financial sense. I mean, I could take them to court, but by the time that was done, all the money was given to the lawyers.
Yeah,
so
the only ones making the money.
One thing I noticed about real estate was that if I played within a certain amount of rules, pay me or don't pay me, it's all going to be all right, because I'm going to get that piece of property back, and I can protect myself and live to make that deal again with someone else, maybe even a better deal next time, So after reading books like Nothing Down by Robert Allen and Kiyosaki and all, taking in as much as I could for free, then I finally hired a coach, which really made all the difference. I was about to go out of. I actually hired a coach to get me out of the situations I was in, so I could quit real estate. And he ended up showing me how to fix my problems and stay in, and that was 22 years ago.
Wow, that's a great story. What's his name?
He
Name and number.
He doesn't want to. I would gladly tell you, but he does not want to be known. So.
Name and number. A lot of people might need his services today. So you went and you almost went out of real estate.
Yeah.
Basically.
So I went and I was doing what everyone.
Flipping, I guess. Right?
No. I was doing what all the gurus were saying to do. I was buying and holding rental properties, you know, and I learned it's like.
So you could get rich like in 30 years.
Yeah, yeah. So I was buying houses, you know, and I owed like $500, and I was renting them out for like $800. So on paper, there's a $300 spread.
Yes.
Right.
So there, you know, they'd always say, well, the first thing out of their mouth is, okay, so you buy a house and you have a $500 payment, and then you sell it and you have a $800 income. I mean, you not sell it, you rent it, and you have an $800 income. That's $300 a month, right? And everyone says, yeah.
Until the water heater goes off.
What they should be saying is bullshit. There is not three. You just assumed that nothing was going to go wrong in that house. And from the air conditioner to the hot water heater to the faucets to the sinks to the tubs to the carpet to the doors to the windows to the electronic garage door opener, from the gate to the fence to the yard to the sprinkler system
just
to the hose.
Painting alone.
Everything. They just acted like none of it was going to break.
And even if the house has been fixed like perfect, you got vacancies, and then you got, you know, the neighbors. I don't know. There's always something that can go wrong, even on brand new houses.
So in my story, I did what they told me to do, and I got 25 houses with a $300 a month spread. Now, mind you, this was 20 years ago. Okay, so these numbers sound kind of weird. That's low. It's because it's 20 years ago, and it's San Antonio, Texas, which has some of the cheapest houses on the planet.
Yeah.
So. On paper, I'm supposed to make $7,500 a month. I knew that I would not make $7,500 a month because all I needed to live was $3,500 a month. So before I quit my job, I went and got over double that. So in hopes that even if some of it didn't go right, I would at least clear what I needed, my $3,500
exactly.
I didn't clear any of that either. I think I ended up writing a check at the end of the year. I think I lost $1,000.
Man, I think you're talking about your story, and I'm like going flashbacks because I was in the same situation when I had all these rental homes, and I don't know, but anyway.
Look, I understand how you could be successful in a rental home if you didn't have any underlying debt. Like if you were buying it with your IRA or you're paying cash. and you're collecting $850 or whatever a month, and you don't have any underlying debt, you just have taxes and interest. I get it. But if you're trying to make the money on the spread between what you owe and what you're collecting, then it takes one air conditioner to wipe out a whole year.
Or sometimes two.
Something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got really upset. I thought this is going to be another business I fail at. So I went to this guy and I paid him the last $10,000 I had because I was trying to get out of these without losing my good reputation and my good credit.
Right.
I've always had good reputation. I've always had good credit because I honor my commitments, and that's my code in my whole life, and I'll die before I don't. And I was willing to give $10,000 to someone because I couldn't figure out how to get out without filing chapter whatever or doing, you know what I mean? And so he comes along. He's very careful with me. He says, look, I'm $10,000. You won't regret it, but I need you to not get upset if I solve your problem in like 48 hours.
48 hours.
He says, because my solution to this is not complicated, but it's very valuable, and you'll figure it out very quickly. So he says, this content's not deep and long and arduous and all this stuff. It's very shallow, but it's very effective, and it'll work like this if you'll do what I tell you to do. So I went home and I thought, so this guy gives me like a one-sentence solution, and it really is the solution, and I paid 10 grand for it. Am I going to worry about it? I said, well, let me so I asked the guy, I said, so if it solves my problem, what's going to happen? Am I going to liquidate these houses, or what's going to happen? He says, no, the $7,500 a month that you wish that should be coming in on paper, it's going to come in, and then you're not going to have to write a check for any of it to go out 99% of the time, unless there's a foreclosure. Otherwise, when the money's going to come in, and it's going to stay in your bank account. So I said, okay, so if I give him $10,000 to show me how to make $7,500 a month come to my bank account, am I going to be upset if it only takes a 2-day conversation? Hell no.
You're going to be very happy.
Hell no. That math was easy. I got a $3 calculator from the dollar store, which confuses me more than anything. But this was easy to figure out. So I said yes. So he goes and he says, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to sell these houses to people with $3,000 down, or whatever down payment you get, but try to get like, I didn't even believe in it. If I would have believed in it, I would have been able to sell it. I would have got $5,000 and $6,000 and $7,000 down. I didn't even believe that this was really going to work. So I was very timid in my request for upfront money. All these houses that I had, no one in this neighborhood would get a new loan. They're not that kind. It's not that kind of neighborhood.
Right.
And then, but I didn't know what I didn't know. They had a lot more money than I thought. I didn't think they had money because they were in that neighborhood. But that just because someone's in a poor neighborhood doesn't mean they don't have $10,000 in a mattress that they were willing to spend for something like as valuable as a house to them.
Yeah.
So I went around, and within 90 days, I got well, it was very quick on some of them because some of the people that were paying me good, it was real easy. They said we'd give you like, I think it averaged $3,000 down. They give me the $3,000. We go down that day or the next day. We made the papers, and they were the owner. And now the check's coming in, and I don't have to
fix
Yeah,
anything.
you don't have to
I don't have to fix anything. It's not my house. It's their house. I sold the house to them on 30 years worth of payments. So but by 90 days, I had all the 25 houses done. I averaged $3,000 down. So do the math. 25,000 times $3,000. How much did I have? I had $75,000 in my account, which was not an escrow account holding deposits. That was my money. Down payments, non-refundable. Okay? And then the $7,500 a month was coming in. So I went from like not making anything to wishing I could make $3,500 to having the whole $7,500 come in, and like in a 90-day period, I watched this work in my life real time, and I was seller financing houses, owner financing houses to people that couldn't get loans at the bank, but they could make the payments.
Yep.
Now the ones that weren't making me payments that were behind, we just got them out, and then I ran ads, and I found someone else that wanted to give me some money to own the house. So that's what took 90 days because I had some of that to do. But it was really fast because when they decided yes, and we agreed on the down payment, we agreed on the payment, we agreed on the years and the interest rate. I mean, it was over. It was done tomorrow. Here.
Yeah, you just go to the title company, you draft
No,
all the,
not even a title
not even
company. I had a title company when I bought it. I knew that it was free and clear. Now, they were so unsophisticated they didn't know to ask, but good thing they dealt with me because I knew there was no title issues and I had already had it proven before I bought them. So they were at risk. But thank God they met someone like me because I'm not going to sell someone a house.
Yeah, you weren't going to give him a
issues.
house with some liens and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, and then.
So that's how you go from landlord
to owner financier.
To owner financier or note holder, pretty much, because now you're holding the note. You're the bank.
Yeah, I went from landlord to being the bank. Now, that was phase 2, and then something happened that changed my life again. So I got the $75,000 worth of down payments. Life altering. Never seen that much money in anyone's bank account, much less mine. I mean, no one's ever even showed me that. You know, then the $7,500 starts coming in every month like clockwork. The phone calls stop. No phone calls.
Yeah, because that's the beauty of what you're saying is so people can understand what owner financing means. Basically, you're selling the house, but you're becoming the bank for the person that's buying the property. So since they own the property, they are responsible for the repairs. So that's why Mitch is saying that the phone calls stops, because once he sells the house, guess what? Toilet is broken. It's your house. You fix it. AC goes down, then you fix it.
How many of y'all out there have a house payment? You owe it to a mortgage company or a bank, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When your toilet breaks, do you call your mortgage company and have them send someone out? No.
So Wells Fargo, please.
Try it one time. Call Wells Fargo and say, hey, my toilet's broken. Watch what they tell you. Okay. So here I am collecting the $7,500 a month, and life is good, man. Life is really good. Then the note buyers start calling me. They said, we'd like to buy that $37,000 note for $34,000 cash.
How did they find out? Oh, because the note is recorded at the county, and they go after that. Okay.
And it was not an institutional name that was the lender.
Mitch Stevens.
Well, no, I had a company, but you know what I mean. It wasn't Wells Fargo.
Mitch Stevens LLC, like a lot of people do, right?
Be creative, huh?
Mine was Independence Day Inc. And because I did when the day that I formed that corporation, they asked me, well, what is this company going to do? And I said, I don't know what it's going to do, but whatever it is I'm going to be independent. So just limit that.
That's a good name.
So then the note buyers found me at the courthouse, and they started calling me. And the one guy says, we'll give you $34,000 for that $37,000 balance that you have at 10% that they owe you. I said, okay. What will you do with 25 of them? And they said, we'll do the same with all 25. So they ended up buying all my notes, and I had $425,000 in the note sale. I looked up, and from like 6 to 8 months from when I was trying to get out of this business, trying to quit, trying to walk away, from that time 6 months to 8 months forward, because I hired a coach that knew what he was doing. This guy had 500 houses free and clear, okay, that he owner financed. He knew the game.
Wow.
And because I hired that guy, 6 to 8 months later, I have $500,000 in the bank. And then I had a fifth revelation. This one wasn't all that good. The IRS came.
They came after you.
They came for the money, and they came for their share. So I quickly went from, 500,000 to less than 500,000 because I had to pay the tax.
Of course, right.
And of course, a man who just got 500,000, who's never dreamed of it, and then has to write a check for like 100 something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
100 something. What? I mean, it was the hardest check I ever wrote. I think I was.
Yeah, because you were writing the check and you're looking at 3
I
or 4
never wrote
houses.
a check like over $10,000, and here I am like
you wrote it with
check.
blood.
Yeah. So then I started on this journey of how fast can I duplicate that scenario, and I got to where I was buying houses, selling them owner finance, and selling the note all in the same day, and or within 30 days, or within 15 days, and I did that 450 days in a row until Associates closed one day, and that sent me into a panic.
What do you mean by that? Because I'm lost there.
Associates was a division of Ford Motor Credit that when I sold my notes to this company or that company, at the end of the day, all those companies were bundling them together, taking massive amounts of notes over there, making 1 or 2% off of selling Ford Motor Credit these third-party notes. And so when Associates closed, everybody's end game stopped. There was no exit for all these guys, so they quit buying notes. Every company overnight stopped buying because Associate was the place they all ended up. They said, we don't want these notes anymore because people were committing fraud, like just, again,
always coming up with some smart idea about how to mess it all up for everybody else.
Yeah. So I was in this huge panic because the way that I was making a living, I couldn't sell a note anymore. Mm-hmm. At the time, I had 50 houses in my inventory for sale.
But wait, these houses are still producing you like monthly income.
Okay, so
I get the part that you want to sell the note.
I was making these lump sums and paying my taxes and everything, but all of a sudden I couldn't make the lump sum, and I was scared. I had about 50 houses that I had already sold that I had notes on, and I had 50 houses in my inventory. And out of those 100 houses, I wasn't going to be able to sell any of the notes. And I got myself in a really bad panic. One of those sweat panics where you wake up at night and, there's a silhouette of you in water on the bed. I mean, I was that stricken. And one day I kind of got scared and panicked for no reason, but the panic just magnified so fast that I couldn't think straight.
Yeah.
And then after about 7 days of living that way, I just got in front of the mirror and started yelling at myself, saying, you're not going to be afraid of this. There's a way out of this. There's a way to figure this out. And actually, my life got a lot easier.
How old were you?
All it was I just couldn't sell the note. So I would get 10,000 down from this guy, or 8,000 down on 50 houses, or 5,000 down on 50 houses, which is 25,000. And then I'd create, and I was looking at the spread between what I owed and what I collected, and it was like $500. So on 50 houses, it was $25,000 of residual income every month and $25,000 worth of one-time down payments. And like, if you can't live off of $25,000, I mean, just go shoot yourself.
There's something wrong with you.
You know, 25,000 cash and 25,000 coming every month. And if I did it another time, if I duplicated that, I'd have 50,000 that I got in, and I'd have a residual income of 50,000 a month. So all of a sudden, my business model actually got easier. I was buying the house, selling it with owner financing, and selling the note. Now it's just buying the house and selling it with owner financing. I actually cut off 1/3 of my job.
Yeah.
Right. And you cut off
I just had to hire a collecting person at my office.
Yeah.
And you also cut off the large portion of the IRS because you were being taxed by collecting all this money up front.
Which, by the way, for the people that are listening to us, if you want to collect this money, you can also hire a third-party collector and note servicing company that will collect the checks. And
well, but remember, this is back then, man, when,
well, you're right.
I mean, this is 25 years ago, you said?
20 years ago.
Exactly. So
I'm pretty sure there was like
a lot of these companies didn't even exist, you know.
I use noteservicing.com, but in all transparency, it's my daughter who had been doing the collections for me for 15 or 20 years. And I said, you just need to make a company out of this. And
offer services to other people.
So
now, let's go back a little bit, Mitch, because I want to ask you something that probably our audience is asking themselves. How were you finding these properties?
You don't have enough time.
Back then, exactly, because you're talking about selling 50 and then going out and buying another 50. So what were you doing to,
part of the lessons I learned was quantity versus quality. So my first year I did 45 houses, and then my second year we did 65 houses. The third year we did 150 houses. And this is where I really learned the quality over quantity thing, because I had been I ended up finding a source of money that basically told me, I said, how many houses do you want me to buy? And his words, quote, were, you can't find enough houses.
Right, for my money.
Yeah, you can't buy enough houses. So I took that as a challenge, and I went out to try to do it. So what I did was, and this was a mistake, but I mean, I learned a lot from it, and I still made a lot of money, but the price I paid for it emotionally and physically was not equitable. I just went out in the street and told I whispered to people in the street that if you would bring me a house 50 cents on the dollar, that I would put up all the money and I'd split with you. So every morning I had a line of people at my office. A line.
So it was basically word of mouth and, doing marketing like person to person. When you're in the bank, talking to the people in line.
Yeah, the word spread like wildfire.
You weren't doing like postcards or any of that stuff.
I was just word of mouth, man. So maybe we knew 10 or 15 people in the business. We told them to tell their friends, and like within a matter of 15 or 20 days, every morning at 8 o'clock, there's like 15 people lined up in my lobby.
You could have done network marketing, gotten ultra rich doing that too, if you were that
didn't know anything about that then. And there was no internet marketing, and there was none of that stuff. And doing a course never crossed my mind, and going to a seminar never crossed my mind because I never heard about one. And there was none of that whole thing was even on the radar back then. And the internet was certainly not anything what it's like now in 1996 or 90, whatever. There wasn't. And so here I am meeting every different personality that you could ever imagine on the street, from a couple of really great guys. But we always know the great straight shooter, perfect partners. How many of those out of 100 are you going to find?
Probably one or two.
Yeah. 2 or 3 or 4 if you're lucky, right? We were doing through some volume, so I found like 4 really freaking great guys that I did hundreds of deals with. The rest of them were shit-ass, lying, conniving, draining, blood-sucking bastards that I had to manage the whole time to hold everything together, you know. And while we had a ton of the money coming in, I wasn't very good at systems or checks and balances, that while I made a ton of money, it was going out the back door just about as fast as it was going out the front door, because I couldn't cover all my bases, and I wasn't smart enough to delegate at that time. I wasn't a seasoned businessman with an infrastructure to the size that I needed, and I didn't know or even think to create it. I was trying to muscle this whole thing through by myself. I had an immature outlook on the business. You know what I mean? I just didn't know. I wasn't ready.
You just wanted to have a power over whatever. You wanted to control it. And it was hard for you to let go, to maybe hire other people.
I didn't even cross my mind that other people would work for me and that I would pay them. I'd never seen myself in that role. And all this happened so fast that it outgrew my mentality. Right. The business outgrew my mentality pretty quick.
Yeah, the business grew a lot larger than you were.
Yes, a lot larger than I was mentally.
And another question, Mitch, were you doing any repairs on these houses, or were you selling them
I was
as
fixing
is?
all of them, which was part of the problem. every single partner I had his own contractor. And you can just already know what nightmare that's going on.
Right,
Yes,
yeah, we know.
We know.
It's hard enough just to manage 1 or 2 contractors that have been with you for 10 years. You know what I mean? Much less I'm doing a new house with this new guy tomorrow, and he's got a new contractor.
Right.
And then tomorrow I do that 3 more times, and then I do it 2 more times the next day, and 3 more. And then, like, all these personalities were coming into my life, and they were killing me.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah, we kind of suffer from some of that, some of those symptoms from time to time.
But today I don't do that. Today I shouldn't have done 50-50 because I had all the overhead and all the infrastructure and all the office.
Yeah.
It should have been 65-35, and we'd have been even, given my overhead. You know what I mean?
And the expertise,
so they were,
you know.
But they were making the real 50%, and I was making 50% minus all the overhead.
Minus all your overhead.
Yeah, I made a lot of mistakes, man.
I think we all have. When was your aha moment? And
yeah,
I'll tell you what,
people,
Mitch.
you were like the third person to ask me that this week. The problem is there's so many aha moments at different stages in your life on different times. So, like, you mean in the very early stages or in the middle or like,
I would say
what's the recent one, you know?
I guess I'll call it on the very early stages. Number one, finding that mentor. So you pay this guy 10 grand.
That was an aha moment.
He pretty much takes you.
I never wrote a person 10 grand for anything except when I bought a house. I never wrote.
And the IRS.
I never. Yeah, well, yeah.
Afterwards.
That was afterwards. So up until that point, I'd never written a person $10,000 to do something for me ever. Mm-hmm. You know, in my life. So that was a very big check. So there was an aha moment when his counsel paid in spades. You know, it's like, wow, I piled 10 grand, and I was so worried about that, and I fretted about that for days. And then all of a sudden, it was like the best money I ever spent. How do you duplicate that? What's the next thing I need to learn? Who's the guy for that? How can I write another $10,000 check to another mentor and get that result? You know what I mean?
to get another aha moment and grow.
Well,
Yeah.
people
So what happened was, that's what's going to happen to a lot of people. I ran out and found the next guy and wrote him a $10,000 check, and he wasn't worth a crap. You know what I mean? He didn't do nothing.
Right.
And I wasted 10 grand.
He just took your money and ran.
Yeah.
As
so
far as
there was another aha moment. Oh, not all mentors are created equal.
Right. Okay.
Some of them will just take your money and run. And I mean, you learn, I guess, through time.
You need to stay tuned. This is the last episode for today. So next week, you're gonna tune in. You're gonna hit share and subscribe. Go on YouTube and find the Renovating Riches Radio podcast and watch us on video. Listen to this on your car. We're gonna bring you Mitch back next week at the same hour, at the same time. Thank you so much. Bye.